The dining table gleamed under the chandelier, set for 8 people. I'd spent the afternoon cooking pot roast, garlic mashed potatoes, and the honey-glazed carrots my grandson used to love. But as my family gathered, laughing and pouring wine, I heard my daughter-in-law whisper to her youngest daughter, "Don't set a place for her. She probably already ate." The words hit like ice water. I stood at the kitchen sink, hands submerged in sudsy water, scrubbing the same pan over and over. My fingers trembled beneath the hot water. I hadn't eaten anything. No one had asked if I wanted to join them. Marissa glanced at me briefly, then turned back to her wine glass, murmuring something to my son. He didn't look up, didn't defend me, didn't acknowledge I existed. I swallowed something heavier than hurt, heavier than shame. That was the moment I understood what had happened. I'd become invisible in my own family's home. Background noise. A burden they tolerated but didn't include. I dried my hands slowly, watching them through the doorway. Watching my son laugh at jokes I couldn't hear. Watching my grandchildren pass dishes I'd prepared without wondering where I was. That night I didn't cry. Prayed instead. My name is Dolores May Patterson. I'm 76 years old. I used to be a pediatric nurse. I worked night shifts for 30 years, coming home exhausted to make breakfast for my son before school. I sewed his Halloween costumes by hand. I drove him to baseball practice even when my back ached so badly I could barely sit. When my husband passed away 4 years ago, my son insisted I move in with them. He said it would be temporary, just until I got settled. They converted the sunroom into a bedroom for me, gave me a hot plate, a narrow bed, and a television that only got 3 channels. Said thank you. Always said thank you. But gradually things changed. Marissa stopped including me in family decisions. My son stopped asking about my day. The grandchildren stopped knocking on my door. I became the woman in the sunroom. The obligation. The elderly relative they housed but didn't cherish. After that dinner, standing alone while my family celebrated without me, something shifted inside me. The sadness crystallized into something else. Clarity. I wasn't going to confront them. I wasn't going to cause scenes or demand respect. I was going to pray. And I was going to pay attention. 3 weeks later, I overheard Marissa on the phone in her home office. I'd been walking past to use the bathroom when her voice carried through the partially open door. "The foundation is doing amazingly well," she said, her tone bright and practiced. "We've raised over $40,000 for single mothers in crisis. The community response has been incredible." Paused, confused. What foundation? Later that day, when everyone was out, I looked through the mail stack on the kitchen counter. There it was, a glossy brochure for Hope Haven Foundation, featuring Marissa's photo and a mission statement about helping struggling families. I'd never heard of it. She'd never mentioned any charity work to me. Something felt wrong. I wrote down the foundation's name and website address in my prayer journal, the small notebook I kept beside my bed. I told myself I was being paranoid, suspicious without cause. But that night when the house was quiet, I used the old laptop my grandson had given me years ago. I searched for Hope Haven Foundation. The website looked professional. Testimonials, photos, donation button. But when I searched for the organization's registration, I found nothing. No nonprofit status. No tax records. Nothing official. Just a PayPal link and empty promises. The next discovery came by accident. My son had asked me to find his insurance papers in his desk drawer. He needed them for a doctor's appointment. I opened the drawer carefully, sorting through the jumbled contents. Receipts, old birthday cards, business documents. Then I saw it. A legal envelope, slightly open, papers visible inside. Power of attorney documents. My hands froze. I pulled the papers out slowly. The signature at the bottom was mine. My name, Dolores May Patterson, written in blue ink. But I hadn't signed anything. I would have remembered. I looked closer. The signature was close but not quite right. The loops were different. The pressure uneven. Someone had forged my signature. I stood there for what felt like hours, staring at those papers. My son and his wife had legal documents claiming authority over my finances, my healthcare decisions, my entire life. And they'd done it without my knowledge or consent. I didn't confront them. Not yet. Instead, I carefully photographed the documents with my phone, then put everything back exactly as I'd found it. I added the photos to a folder I'd started labeling evidence. I was documenting everything now. Quietly. Methodically. They thought I was losing my memory. I was building a case. "You're so lucky we take care of you," Marissa said one morning, her voice honey-sweet as she packed her yoga bag. I was washing breakfast dishes they'd left in the sink. "Some families just put their elderly parents in homes. We actually care about you being comfortable." She said it like she was doing me an enormous favor. Like I should be grateful for the converted sunroom and the isolation. "I mean, you're not as sharp as you used to be," she continued, checking her reflection in the hall mirror. "It's better if we handle the important stuff. Bills, accounts, that kind of thing. Less stressful for you." I nodded, keeping my face neutral. "That's very thoughtful." "Exactly. We just want what's best for you." After she left, I sat in my small room and opened my laptop. I'd been keeping a spreadsheet, carefully noting every concerning incident. Direct quotes when I could remember them. The forged power of attorney. The mysterious foundation. The way they'd gradually taken control of everything that was mine. I also started tracking my own accounts online. Bank statements. Credit card activity. Social security deposits. Small charges were appearing regularly. $10 here. $20 there. Transactions I hadn't authorized. They were stealing from me. Slowly. Thinking I wouldn't notice. I took screenshots of everything. I bought a flash drive at the pharmacy during one of my rare outings. The pharmacist smiled at me kindly. "How are you doing today, Mrs. Patterson?" "I'm well, thank you." I paid in cash, keeping the receipt. Back home, I hid the flash drive inside my Bible, the worn leather book I'd had since my wedding day. Seemed fitting somehow. My faith and my evidence kept together. Every time the house was empty, I transferred files. Bank statements. Screenshots of the fake foundation website. Photos of the forged documents. Emails I'd found on the family computer that discussed handling Dolores's finances. The flash drive filled slowly, methodically. My Bible grew heavier with secrets and proof. At night I prayed over both. Prayed for strength. Prayed for wisdom. Prayed for justice that didn't come from anger but from truth. My faith had always been quiet, personal. But now it became strategic. I wasn't just praying for intervention. I was preparing for it. Creating the tools God could use to reveal what was hidden. Some people might say I was being paranoid or vindictive. But I knew better. This wasn't revenge. This was protection. This was refusing to be erased. I overheard Marissa talking to the neighbor across the fence one afternoon. I'd been watering the small herb garden I'd planted in containers outside my sunroom window. They didn't know I was there. "We're managing, but it's challenging," Marissa said, her voice filled with practiced concern. "Dolores has been showing signs of confusion lately. Memory issues. We're trying to be patient, but it's exhausting." My hands stilled on the watering can. "Oh, that must be so hard," the neighbor said sympathetically. "It is. Some days she doesn't even remember conversations we had the day before. We're looking into options for additional care." I hadn't shown any signs of confusion. My memory was sharp. I could recite every medication I took, every appointment I had. Marissa was planting a story. Creating a narrative that I was declining mentally. Why? So that when they took more control, no one would question it. So that if I objected to anything, they could point to my condition as evidence I wasn't competent. That week I noticed something else. The family photos that had lined the hallway were gone. The pictures of me holding my son as a baby. Me and my late husband on our anniversary. My grandchildren's school photos with me. All replaced with generic artwork. abstract paintings in neutral colors. I was being erased from the family history. Thanksgiving arrived cold and gray. "We're going out for dinner," my son announced that morning. "Just a quick work thing. Won't be long." He nodded. "That's fine. I'll make myself something here." They left at 3 in the afternoon. I watched from my window as they loaded into the car, dressed nicely. My grandson wore a tie. My granddaughter had curled her hair. This wasn't a work dinner. This was a holiday celebration. They came home at 9 carrying takeout containers. I could smell steak and garlic. Expensive restaurant food. "Oh, you're still up," Marissa said, barely glancing at me as she passed. "We figured you'd already eaten." They hadn't brought me anything. Hadn't called. Hadn't thought about me at all. I ate a bowl of soup alone in my room that night. But before I did, I lit a candle and prayed. "God, show them what they've become. Help them see what they're doing. And help me remember who I am. Not what they've decided I am, but who you created me to be." My voice cracked on the last words. But saying the prayer aloud made it real. Made it powerful. I wasn't just enduring anymore. I was actively fighting, armed with faith. My grandson's birthday party invitation sat on the kitchen counter for 3 days. Laser tag arena. Pizza afterward. Family celebration on Saturday at 2. I waited to be asked. Assumed someone would mention it, would say, "Gran, we're celebrating Wesley's birthday on Saturday. You'll come, right?" No one said anything. Saturday arrived. I stayed in my room, listening to them prepare. Marissa called out instructions. My son loaded presents into the car. I heard Wesley run past my door, laughing with his sister. The front door slammed. Car doors opened and closed. The engine started. I walked to the front window and watched them drive away. Wesley didn't wave. Didn't even glance at the house. I stood at that window for a long time after they'd gone, my reflection staring back at me in the glass. An old woman. Lone. Forgotten. But then I straightened my shoulders. I wasn't forgotten by everyone. God saw me. God knew. And I was done being passive. I picked up my phone and called a number I'd looked up weeks ago. The local police station's non-emergency line. "I need advice about elder abuse," I said when someone answered. "Not to report anything yet. Just to understand my options." The police officer I spoke with was kind and patient. I explained my situation carefully. The forged power of attorney. The financial irregularities. The social isolation. "Ma'am, you're describing textbook elder abuse," he said gently. "Financial exploitation, emotional manipulation, possible fraud." "I'm not crazy." My voice was smaller than I intended. "No, you're not crazy. And if those documents were forged, they have no legal authority over you whatsoever." He talked me through the steps I could take. Documentation. Legal counsel. Reporting procedures. Before we hung up, he said, "Would you like me to print out some information for you? About elder rights and legal protections?" "Yes, please." I drove to the station the next day. The officer handed me a folder with pamphlets and resource sheets. "You're brave for asking for help," he said. "A lot of people in your situation suffer in silence." I thanked him and left. In my car, I added the police information to my Bible alongside the flash drive. My evidence was growing. My case was building. I wasn't suffering in silence anymore. I was preparing for battle. Quiet battle. A strategic battle. But a battle nonetheless. I discovered the reverse mortgage application by accident. Marissa had left her laptop open on the dining table. She'd run upstairs to take a call, leaving the screen visible. I was walking past when I saw it. An application form from a mortgage company. My house address. Name. My house. The home I'd lived in with my husband for 40 years before moving here. They were trying to take out a reverse mortgage against my property. Using my identity. Without my knowledge. My heart pounded as I quickly took photos with my phone. I could hear Marissa's voice upstairs, still on her call. I moved away from the table before she returned, retreating to my room. Later that night, I researched reverse mortgages. I learned that they required the homeowner's signature, consent, legal documentation. They were planning to forge my signature again. Or maybe they already had. The next morning I called a lawyer. A real one this time, not just gathering information. The receptionist was professional and kind. What type of legal issue are you facing? Elder abuse, fraud, identity theft. I'll get you scheduled with Attorney Rodriguez. She specializes in elder law. My first appointment was set for the following week. Attorney Rodriguez was younger than I expected. Maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a firm handshake. Mrs. Patterson, tell me what's been happening. I opened my Bible and pulled out the flash drive. Everything is here. Forged documents. Bank statements showing unauthorized transactions. Evidence of a fake charity. Photos of legal papers I never signed. Police reports from my initial inquiry. She plugged the flash drive into her computer, her expression growing more serious as she reviewed the files. Mrs. Patterson, this is substantial evidence. You've documented everything perfectly. I was a nurse for 30 years. Documentation is important. She smiled slightly. This isn't just civil fraud. This is criminal elder abuse, financial exploitation, identity theft, potentially multiple felonies. I don't want them arrested. The words surprised me as I said them. I want them to understand what they've done. I want them to face consequences, but I wanted to change them, not just punish them. Attorney Rodriguez studied me carefully. That's remarkably compassionate, given what they've put you through. I still pray for them every night, I said quietly. I pray they'll become the people they're supposed to be. But I also pray for justice and protection. Then that's exactly what we'll pursue. I started attending church again. I'd stopped going after moving in with my son and his family. They never offered to drive me, and I felt too tired to arrange transportation myself. But now I took the senior shuttle service on Sunday mornings. The pastor recognized me immediately. Dolores, it's been too long. Welcome back. I sat in the back pew, just soaking in the familiar hymns and prayers. After the service, several women approached me. Join us for coffee, one said. We meet Tuesday mornings. Prayer group and Bible study. I started attending regularly. These women became my support system. I didn't tell them everything at first, but gradually I shared pieces of my situation. They didn't judge. They didn't tell me I was being ungrateful or oversensitive. They prayed with me. They encouraged me. They reminded me that I had worth beyond what my family was showing me. You're not crazy, one woman said firmly. You're being abused. And it's not okay, no matter how they dress it up. For the first time in years I felt seen, valued, heard. The church became my refuge, my strength. God was working through these people, rebuilding what my family had torn down. The court summons arrived on Marissa's birthday. I watched from my room as she opened the official envelope at the kitchen table. Her face draining of color. What is this? Her voice was sharp, panicked. My son came over to look. I could see his expression change through the doorway. It's a summons. For fraud and elder abuse. What? That's insane. Who would? She stopped, her eyes darting toward my room. I stayed perfectly still, holding my Bible, praying quietly. Marissa stormed toward my door, but my son grabbed her arm. Don't. Not right now. They argued in harsh whispers I couldn't quite hear. When Marissa finally approached my door and knocked sharply, I opened it calmly. Did you do this? She demanded, waving the papers. I looked her in the eye for the first time in months. Really looked at her. God is answering prayers, I said simply. Her mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. My son stood behind her, pale and silent. You'll want to get a lawyer, I continued. The court date is in 3 weeks. I closed the door gently, my heart pounding but my hands steady. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Formal but not intimidating. Marissa and my son arrived dressed like they were attending a garden party. She wore an expensive cream suit. He wore pressed slacks and a blazer. They sat with their attorney, a middle-aged man who looked bored. I sat with Attorney Rodriguez, my Bible and a folder of documents on the table before me. The judge reviewed the initial complaints, then asked Marissa to respond. She stood, her voice sweet and concerned. Your Honor, this is all a misunderstanding. We've been caring for my mother-in-law for years. She's elderly, confused sometimes. We've only tried to help manage her affairs for her own protection. The judge nodded, making notes. Then Attorney Rodriguez stood. Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence that contradicts that narrative. She submitted the flash drive contents, the forged power of attorney documents, the bank statements showing unauthorized transactions, the fake charity registration, the reverse mortgage application with my forged signature. As each piece of evidence was presented, I watched Marissa's confident smile fade. The judge examined the forged signature alongside my real signature. These signatures don't match, he said flatly. Marissa's attorney tried to object, but the evidence was overwhelming. Mrs. Patterson, the judge addressed me directly. Are you mentally competent to manage your own affairs? Yes, Your Honor. I have letters from my doctors confirming that. Attorney Rodriguez submitted those as well. The judge's expression hardened as he looked at Marissa and my son. This court finds sufficient evidence of elder abuse and fraud to proceed with full investigation. My son said nothing during the entire hearing. He sat silent, eyes down like a child waiting for punishment. When the judge asked him directly, "Did you authorize these documents?" he hesitated. "Did you forge your mother's signature?" Longer pause. "Marissa handled all the paperwork," he finally mumbled. My heart broke hearing him deflect responsibility. This was the boy I'd raised. Someone who wouldn't even defend himself, let alone protect his mother. After the hearing, Marissa tried to approach me in the hallway. "This is all a huge misunderstanding," she started, her voice shaking. Attorney Rodriguez stepped between us. "My client has no interest in speaking with you outside of court proceedings." We left them standing there, Marissa's facade finally cracking, my son looking lost and small. In the car I let myself cry for the first time. Not because I'd won. Because I'd lost something more important than money or property. I'd lost my son. Or maybe I'd just finally seen that I'd lost him years ago, and I'd been too heartbroken to admit it. The news spread through our small community faster than I expected. The local newspaper ran a brief article in the legal notices section. Local woman files elder abuse complaint against family. It didn't name names, but in a town this size, people figured it out quickly. At church the following Sunday, I felt eyes on me. But not judgment. Sympathy. Several people approached me after the service. "I always thought something was off about that Marissa," one woman said. "You were so brave to stand up for yourself," another added. The pastor pulled me aside. "If you need anything, the church is here for you. Housing, support, anything." "Thank you. I'm managing." But the attention felt strange. I'd been invisible for so long. Now suddenly people saw me again. Saw me as someone who'd fought back. Someone who refused to be a victim. Marissa stopped attending social events. Stopped posting on social media. The fake charity website disappeared overnight. Her carefully constructed image was crumbling, and everyone was watching. I took no pleasure in it. I just felt tired. And I kept praying. For her. For my son. For all of us. 2 weeks after the hearing, I heard arguing late at night. Marissa's voice was shrill, desperate. "You need to choose. Either we leave or she does." My son's response was quieter, but I heard it clearly. "Where would we even go? I don't care. I'm not staying in this house with her. Not after what she's done to us. What she'd done to them." The irony was almost funny. The next morning I watched from my window as they loaded suitcases into their car. My son moved mechanically, his face blank. The children looked confused. My granddaughter kept looking back at the house. My son never once glanced toward my room. No goodbye. No explanation. They left Wesley's old bicycle in the yard, forgotten. As they drove away, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. The house was quiet without them. Peaceful. Mine again. I walked through the rooms, reclaiming space I'd been exiled from. I moved my things back into the main bedroom. I cooked in the kitchen without feeling like an intruder. For the first time in 4 years, I felt like I lived in a home instead of existing in a converted sunroom. God had answered my prayers. But not in the way I'd hoped. I'd wanted restoration. Instead, I got liberation. The knock at my door 2 weeks later startled me. I opened it to find a woman in business attire, holding a briefcase. Mrs. Patterson. I'm Claudia Hernandez from the county tax office. May I come in? Of course. She sat at my kitchen table, pulling out documents. We've been investigating your son and daughter-in-law's tax filings. Your address was used for their charity organization. The one that wasn't actually registered as a non-profit. My stomach sank. I didn't know about any of that. We understand. But we needed to verify that. Your son listed you as a board member on their tax documents. I was never a board member. I never even knew about the organization until recently. She made notes. This corroborates what we've found. Mrs. Patterson, they committed tax fraud. They claimed charitable deductions for an organization that didn't exist. What happens now? They'll face significant penalties, possibly criminal charges. And your son's employer has been notified because he used his business address for some of the financial transactions. After she left, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. My son was going to lose his job, face legal consequences. All because of Marissa's schemes and his willingness to look the other way. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt sad. The third Sunday after they'd left, I arrived at church to find someone unexpected in the back pew. Wesley. My grandson. Lone. He sat hunched in a hoodie, head down, looking smaller than his 15 years. I didn't approach him immediately. I took my usual seat several rows ahead. Let the service begin. Let the music and prayers fill the space between us. During the final hymn, I felt someone slide into the pew beside me. Wesley didn't look at me. Didn't speak. He just reached over and took my hand. His palm was warm. His grip tight. I squeezed back, tears streaming down my face. After the service, we sat in my car in the parking lot. I'm sorry, Gran, he whispered. I'm so sorry. We all treated you so badly. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't say anything. I just went along with it. Where are your parents now? Mom and Dad are separated. Living in different apartments. Dad lost his job. Mom's facing legal problems. Everything fell apart. I'm sorry that happened. He looked at me surprised. You're sorry. Gran, they did this to themselves. They did it to you. I know. But I'm still sorry. I never wanted your family destroyed. I just wanted to be treated like I mattered. Wesley hugged me then, sobbing into my shoulder. We sat in that parking lot for an hour talking about everything. About how wrong things had been. About his fear and confusion. About what happens next. My son lost his job 3 days later. The investigation revealed he'd used his business connections to legitimize Marissa's fake charity. He'd listed it on his employee benefits forms. Used his work email for foundation communications. His company fired him immediately. Marissa filed for separation the same week. Turns out she had a backup plan that didn't include him. When he finally called me, I stared at my phone, watching it ring. Part of me wanted to answer. Wanted to hear his voice. Wanted him to apologize. But I let it go to voicemail. His message was brief. Mom, I don't know what to say. Everything's falling apart. I didn't know how bad it was. I should have listened to you. I should have protected you. I'm sorry. His voice broke at the end. I saved the message but didn't call back. Not yet. He needed to sit with the consequences. Needed to understand that sorry wasn't enough after years of neglect and abuse. Maybe eventually we'd rebuild something. But it would be on new terms. Terms where I was respected, valued. I wasn't the same woman who'd moved into their sunroom 4 years ago. I'd found my strength again. My voice. My worth. And I wasn't giving that up for anyone. The women's ministry at church asked me to speak at their annual conference. Share your testimony, the pastor's wife said. Other women need to hear your story. I almost refused. Public speaking terrified me. But she insisted. Tell them what faith looks like when everything's falling apart. Tell them about staying strong when you're invisible. The conference was held in the church's community center. 200 women attended. I stood at the podium, hands shaking, looking out at all those faces. My name is Dolores Patterson, I began. And for 4 years I was invisible. I told them everything. The isolation, the financial abuse, the fake charity, the forged documents. But I also told them about prayer, about quiet strength, about gathering evidence while maintaining faith, about refusing to become bitter even when treated with contempt. I prayed every single night, I said. Even when it felt like my prayers went nowhere. Even when nothing changed. I kept praying because faith isn't about getting what you want immediately. It's about trusting God's timing. By the end, women were crying. When I finished, the standing ovation lasted several minutes. Afterward, dozens of women approached me. I'm going through something similar. My family treats me the same way. You've given me courage to speak up. I realized my suffering had purpose beyond my own situation. God had used it to strengthen others, to give voice to the voiceless. That made it all worthwhile. The reverse mortgage was officially canceled. Attorney Rodriguez called with the news. The bank investigated and found the application was fraudulent. All documents with forged signatures have been invalidated. What about my house? It's still yours. Completely. Nothing they filed has any legal standing. I felt relief wash over me. My home was safe. My finances were being restored. The legal system had recognized the truth. But the biggest victory came a week later. The judge ruled that all assets tied to my name, including accounts Marissa had accessed, would be frozen and audited. Anything taken would need to be returned with penalties. My son and Marissa were ordered to repay over $40,000 in stolen funds. Marissa tried to claim she'd spent it on my care. The judge reviewed the records and found no evidence supporting that claim. She'd spent it on personal expenses, vacations, designer clothes, her fake charity events. None of it had benefited me. The house where I'd lived with my son's family was actually in my name. I'd let them live there rent-free when I'd moved in, thinking it was temporary. Now I wanted it back. The judge granted my request. They had 60 days to vacate. I wasn't being cruel. I was being practical. I needed a place to live that was truly mine. And they needed to face the full weight of their choices. The knock came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was folding laundry when I heard it. 3 soft knocks, then a pause. Then my son's voice. Mom! I stood still, considering. My heart pounded. Waited. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 4 full minutes of silence. Then I walked to the door and opened it. He looked 20 years older than the last time I'd seen him. His hair was thinner. His shoulders slumped. His eyes red-rimmed. He was alone. I didn't know, he said, his voice breaking. I swear I didn't know how bad it was. Marissa said she was handling everything. I trusted her. I was so stupid. You weren't stupid, I said quietly. You were complicit. There's a difference. He flinched. You saw how she treated me. You heard how she talked about me. You watched me being isolated and dismissed. And you chose not to question it. That wasn't stupidity. That was cowardice. Tears ran down his face. I know. You're right. I have no excuse. Why are you here? Because I've lost everything else. My wife, my job, my home. But I can't lose you too. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I broke something that might never heal. But I'm here now. I'm finally here. I looked at him, this man I'd raised. This person I'd sacrificed everything for. I didn't hug him. Not yet. The wounds were too fresh. But I stepped aside. Come in. We need to talk. Wesley lives with me now. After his parents' separation, he asked if he could stay with me. His mother moved across the state. His father was living in a small apartment, trying to rebuild his life. Wesley chose me. He volunteers at the church now. Helps with the food pantry on Saturdays. Walks with me to the market every Thursday. Calls me Gran again instead of just passing by like I'm invisible. My son visits once a week. He brings flowers. He listens instead of talking over me. He's learning what it means to actually see someone. We're rebuilding. Slowly. Carefully. It'll take years to heal completely. Maybe we never will. But we're trying. The house is in Wesley's name now. I signed it over to him with clear legal documentation. When I'm gone, he'll have a home. Foundation. As for me, I'm planning something different. I'm moving to a small town near the coast. Somewhere quiet. Where I can hear the ocean and read books on a porch. Wesley will visit. My son can visit if he wants. But I'm going to live the rest of my life for myself. Not as someone's burden. Not as invisible furniture. As Dolores May Patterson. Beloved of God. Worthy of respect. Strong enough to fight back. Every night before bed I still pray. Not for revenge. That season has passed. Not even for justice. That's been served. Pray for healing. For my family to remember what love actually looks like. For them to treat others with the dignity I fought so hard to reclaim. And I pray they never forget what it cost them to learn these lessons. Because faith isn't passive. Faith is active. Faith fights back with truth and patience and unshakable belief that God sees everything. Even grandmothers in sunrooms. Even the invisible ones. God saw me. He always did. And that made all the difference.